agenda tonight is the Historical Society update and request. And council, at this time I'd like to introduce Joe Strickland, who is the president of the Historical Society. I've spent just a little bit of time with Joe and his story, and after having a conversation with him, it was decided that the best thing to do is get his story out. So tonight he's going to come with an update on the Historical Society along with a request at the end. So Mr. Strickland, welcome to City Council, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate you coming down and looking at the property with me and listening me out. And I'd like to thank Jason Eads back here for helping me get my presentation together. I've given you a copy of it. It's a busy presentation, so I intend to go through to minimize the amount of time and questions at the end. My objective is to just go across some history and try to create some dialogue either at the city level, the county level, or with individuals for the survival of the Historical Society. So that's my objective. Our current officers are, I'm Joseph R. Strickland. I'm the president. Our vice president is Gary Wilcox. Secretary is Bert Gross, and the treasurer is Mary Lamb. We're a 501(c) organization formed in 1982, some 41 years ago today. But to put where we are in perspective today, I put a little history together. On the left of each one of these slides is a historical document from which I've extracted a part of it from. This is the certification from the Secretary of State. At that time it was Mr. Manchin, who happens to be the current senator's uncle. We were formed in 1982, and I've highlighted what I consider on this slide to be critical. The incorporators were names we all know, Bonita Bell and Stanley Atkins. The initial board of directors included Bonita Bell, Jim Comstock, who at that time was the publisher of the News Leader and the Hillbilly in Richwood. So this was a countywide organization, and Mr. Rice, who lived down at Cross Lane. Our association is genealogical. It's nonprofit. We're open to individuals interested in history, especially the history of Nicholas County. We are dedicated to collection and preservation of materials, artifacts that illustrate the history of our area and ensure the access to such materials and to the preservation of our historic landmarks. And I've highlighted the historic landmarks. The next slide will explain that. The work of the society is carried out by volunteers and is supported by memberships, dues, and contributions. The next slide indicates the formation of the Nicholas County Historic Landmark Commission, which was formed in 1984. On the left is the document from the county. Excuse me. Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you. Keep me on.
You're doing good, Jeff.
Anyway, County Commission 1984 agreed to form the Nicholas County Historical Landmark Commission, and our Historical Society was put as a member of that commission and still is a member. So that organization now is under the county's umbrella. Our organization, we don't have an umbrella. We have to provide our own insurance, everything. So that's the difference between the two. The first document, the next document is the one-room schoolhouse, which is currently located at the Nicholas County Veterans Memorial Park. It's a school from the old days, back when there were no lights, no running water, no school buses, and no school lunch. It served as the Irish Corner Schoolhouse from 1915 to 1954. It was moved to the Memorial Park restored by volunteers from the Historical Society, the Nicholas County Association of Retired Teachers, and it is currently owned by the Nicholas County Veterans Memorial Park, originally owned by the association. So over the years, somewhere responsibility, if you're on my property, it becomes my property. So I've decided I wouldn't fight that since they're going to take care of it. And we have a user's fee, we get access to it. So it's available to the public, and continues today. The next one is the Historical Society, is the Hamilton House, which Mayor Schaefer toured with me. It's an 1893 farmhouse located down 39, just south of town here. And it was built in 1893 when Summersville had the grand total of 200 inhabitants. So it was occupied by the Hamiltons in 1984. And now this one and we dedicated in 1988. It's since served as our headquarters and museum for collections and furnishings for the life of the average Nicholas County family at the turn of the 19th century. The next one is the Richwood Historic District, which was also formed as part of this organization. And there are 13 historic locations in Nicholas County. The Hamilton House is one, this is one, there's another location in Lockwood and other houses scattered around the county and buildings. The next organization that came along was the Old Main Foundation, and it came along in 1990, and it was organized as a 501(c) as well. And sometimes those two all these organizations have been in conflict with each other, so today we're back in more of a cooperative mood and trying to move the total effort forward. The organization was promoted to maintain and the purpose to have educational heritage, preservation, and the arts. And it was incorporated by Wilma Richardson, who was a prominent citizen who got a lot of historical stuff started. She retired, moved back here. Most of the people in these organizations had a lot of them moved off, earned their livings, moved back, and that sort of thing. So that is where we're at today. We're at the Hamilton House today. This house is down 39, and this is the current condition of the house. The little sign in the bottom left corner is out on the road. The house is, the next one gives you the location just outside the city limits. And the item on the right is the plat, which was attached to the deed. The current owners, heirs, have an access road through there. They also, I think, have a access for an easement for a drain field on the sewer system. So the house was restored primarily. Wayne Accord was one of the major people who helped restore the house in that period. If you walk around the house, it's badly deteriorated. And so I've just walked around the house here, and the mayor went with me, and you can see there's a lot of repairs that need to be done to maintain it as a historical place. And that takes a lot of money. It's not going down and put plastic siding on it. So you have to maintain it as it was in 1893 to maintain its registry. You go inside, and the first 3 or 4 rooms are artifacts. These are items such as that refrigerator there, ice box, that's Wayne Accord's. The stove back there belongs to somebody else. So people donated all of these things. They're in there, and if you can get in the house, that's what you get to look at. To me, the most important part of the collection is the documents that are inside the house. They're historic documents. I call them an archive. It's books, histories. There's cabinets full of family histories, those things that people had developed and put in there over time. So, to me, that's the preservation that needs to be done. Now, my experience is, I'm a retired industrial forester, and I can tell you it's a lot harder to shut something down or change it than it is to start. So it's hard to come in and tell your employees, I'm going to cut the third shift, okay? Or they decided somewhere else they're going to shut you down. So my objective is, I was advised not to take the job as president by some prominent people in town. But I decided my job was try to make it survive. So that's what I'm here to discuss with you, is how we can, as an organization and a community, make it survive. This is sort of how it is today. These are the issues. It's not handicap accessible. We don't have heating, air conditioning, and ventilation. We can't afford it. It's not fireproof. There's no fire protection. There's no dehumidifier to keep the documents and the artifacts in a good condition. The room is not big enough for regular meetings. Can't afford to maintain the exterior of the house as a historic place. There's no water or toilet. We can't afford it. Limited accessible parking. The historic document archive is not indexed for searching and are making available for online searches, and we don't have any high-speed internet. And the other thing of it is, I've been up to the city library, and the ladies up there brought these boxes out. People bring this historic stuff into the library, our library here. We don't have a way to catalog and use it and make it available to the public. Because a lot of people who want access to these documents want weekends. They come in for family reunions or something else. The lady last week came from North Carolina. She's from Richwood. She was looking for her history. But if I don't have the stuff organized, it's sort of like, you know, where do you start? So it requires professional people to put this thing together to make it useful. Now the other thing at the bottom is there is a deed condition that is critical to the survival of the organization. This is the legal document at the top, the deed that's recorded in the courthouse, and the current heirs family, that's the prominent one, is the Mearns. And they are the grantees. And the Nicholas County Historical Society is the grantee. Now there's a condition in there in that top box, the one that says, should the grantee dissolve or otherwise cease to exist as an organization in corporate form or not, then the property herein conveyed shall revert to the grantors, their heirs, successors, and assignees. So I can't leave the house until I dissolve. That's the problem. Well, after Mr. Mayor and I visited, I stopped by the caretaker's house and had a long discussion. And that night, I had a nice phone call from the heir. She's in California. She's a environmental engineer, has a big business out there. And so it was a very pleasant discussion with her about what we needed to do. And she said I could agree that I could share it with the city council. So she's very receptive. And she's coming in October, and we'll have meetings with her. She would like for us to get an attorney, which we can find a way for them to take the house back, and we retain our society. So she wants the house back. She wants to restore it and maintain it as a historical place. That's with the National Park Service that was listed in 1999. So that part, I think, the survival issue we can solve, which to me has in the past been a major issue. Because if you dissolve, you have to give a lot of these donations and these artifacts back. And it may be hard to find Aunt Bertha, who is long gone, and we don't know where she is. So that was, to me, was a major step forward. So, we're like any organization, we have needs and wants. We need a handicapped accessible facility. We need heating, air conditioning, ventilation, fireproof, fire protection, dehumidifier for the documents and the artifacts, facility with room big enough for regular meetings, low cost or no cost maintenance, potable water, toilets, easy accessible parking, and it's like the rest of the city, parking is a very premium thing here as well as throughout the city. We need high-speed internet, The artifacts need to be somewhere we can display them and make them available to the public. The historical documents the archives need to be scanned and indexed for searching and making available for e-commerce. I've talked to some organizations that feel strongly that get it online and people will pay to get a copy of their family history. So and then I have a place to store these documents and make them display. And finally, an excellent website developed and indexed and maintained by us. So as most things is, we have facility needs, monetary needs, volunteers and staff. And the last thing, I want to thank you all on the City Council and for all your time and your attention. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see if we have any questions, Joe. Questions?
Joe, I want to say thank you for presenting this evening. It's an excellent presentation.
Well, thank you.
I'm sure it enlightened us quite a bit, I know.
Well, I think the history needs to be there for people to understand. It's like,
I agree wholeheartedly.
so it's like this year's the 52nd Potato Festival. Well, if you don't know the history, you don't know how you got here. And my experience is if you don't have your history, you become just a number. And so, to me, history is important, not only for now, but the future, and your kids and all our kids will appreciate it. So, all of these people did a lot of work to collect all this up, and my objective is to find a way to preserve it, move it into the future, and make it where it can stand by itself, because you can't find the volunteers that came home after the service who had been through World War II, who had been people, their parents had been through the Depression. They knew their actions or inactions had consequences, so that's why they took these actions. So,
Yeah.
that's...
So Joe, let's be clear, let's put a clear message out, exactly what you're looking for. And of course, anybody would be able to draw the conclusions that you have, and I quickly could on my visit, that you need a new home.
Need a new home.
So this is a call to the Nicholas County community that the Historical Society is looking for a new home because many reasons. Most is probably, the revenue, the financial piece to be able to maintain the property. It's not realistic. But, the thing that's really scary is, as you well stated, your document room that's got your archives in it. And what would be really, really sad is for this county to lose. And more important than anything is the fact that there's no fire protection down there. And then, of course, right now, the only thing that's happening down there is they've just got electricity on.
That's right.
Anyway, then, so it's you're looking for a new home. So if anybody's got any ideas here in Nicholas County, I encourage you to reach out to Joe Strickland. And Joe, can we get your contact information in the newspaper? Because what would be good is to give Ray one of your cards so that
I've given him the presentation.
Okay, good. And so you need a new home, obviously finances, but you're also wanting to maybe kind of do that through membership,
Yeah, membership is very minimal.
Yeah,
and you got life members, some of them are probably not around anymore, so at one time in 1995 there were 200, we're down to probably less than 100, okay?
Yeah.
And a meeting has 3 folks.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's,
So members are needed bad, it's real affordable, it's very inexpensive to become a member, even a life member, but more importantly, you need that network of people to help you accomplish the missions that are laid before you in your current situation.
And Mayor, the Upshur County Historical Society has a building downtown across from the courthouse where they do documents and that sort of thing, and they publish newsletters and those sort of things. So there is an example out there that I would personally will go check on and report back to you because to see what they have. So there's other people that are doing that.
Yeah.
And the key is something that can be has its own life and can work on weekends and others and make it accessible. So
And then finally, if anybody so has it in their heart to make sure that this effort of the archives of the history of this county, that it's preserved, if anybody has it in their heart, as a society, you'll definitely take a donation.
All right. Yes,
So, okay.
Thank you very much.
Joe, excellent, thank you.
Mayor, can I,
Yes,
Joe,
Oh, excuse me.
this is kind of personal interest thing here.
Yeah.
Could you describe your, or tell us briefly about your family history in the county?
Summer County?
Summersville.
Well, my dad was a doctor here. Dr. Leonard
Right.
Strickland was here probably somewhere in the mid-40s till he passed away in '67. And it turned out that he graduated from Nicholas County High School 100 years ago this year. He rode a horse from over on Wilson Ridge and came over here and then stayed at the Craig House and got his high school degree and that sort of thing. Practiced military, World War II, practiced that. I have a brother. I grew up on Hill Street down here. And my brother's a retired doctor in Charleston. I'm an industrial forester. I've been all over the South. The last 36 years I spent in Dallas, Texas. And you say, what is a forester doing in Dallas, Texas? Because it's 300 miles to the closest tree. I was there because we had to have an airport. Any morning I was in a support group, strategic planning for the organization. Any morning you might have to say, well, you need to be in Portland, Oregon. Next morning you need to be in Portland, Maine. You need to be in Singapore, Helsinki, wherever you want. So, you know, there's no trees, but it was a good airport. So, but then my wife and I, both are from here. So we left in '56, moved back 60 years later in 2016. And we came back because I lived in Dallas and the LBJ freeway just got double decked. And about a mile away from him, it was 21 lanes of traffic. So I decided I better move home before my son wheeled me in a wheelchair and said, guess where you are, Dad? So does that help you, Mr. Epstein?
Except I think you didn't say anything about your mother.
My mother was a high school teacher here and taught math here at Old Main from 1948 to 1972.
An excellent teacher. She was one of my teachers.
Thank you, sir.
And I went to your dad. Your dad's office was on the Camden property down here on the corner.
My dad's first office was over the Stowers grocery store.
Okay.
And I always remember those little ladies in the 3-inch heels would climb those straight upstairs. And, you know, I said, what are you up here for, good doctor? And then my dad had his, as you say, had his office at the Camden. Right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
I grew up on Oak Street.
Okay,
You guys were little, and his brother's name is Sane.
right.
He was quite a professional down in Charleston for a
Yes,
lot of
he was.
years.
He ran the
airplane.
clinic on the boulevard for years, right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you, Joe.
Yes.